Salutations to the nations. What's good, Angel Knots? It's your boy Young Sinai.
Angel Knot.
Alright, so this video is called You'll Never Quit Pokemon. Here's why. And this video is by Joe K. Video Game Essays. Alright, let's check it out.
Modern Pokemon games have drama on every release, and yet people keep buying them. In fact, they're buying them more now than almost ever in the past.
I'm not buying them. I didn't buy that last Pokemon after I saw it. First off, it looked like trash, okay? And then I saw all the glitching on YouTube. I did not buy that trash. I bought Arceus. I love Arceus. I don't care what you say about Arceus, man. Don't get me wrong, he's got some glitching here and there. And at first I didn't necessarily care for the graphics, but watch. Those graphics are gonna age like fine wine. I ain't gonna hold you. Because of the, like, what's it called? Like the palette, like the flat palette that they use. When I play that game, it low-key feel like I'm existing in lo-fi hip-hop. Okay, like that's the whole vibe I get. It's just chill. That is a cozy game.
Why is that? Why does it seem that so many people will never quit
What I mostly play Pokemon though is Poke MMO. I'm gonna do a video on that.
Pokemon no matter what choices Game Freak makes, even if they seem bizarre at times? Well, let's start off with the fact that no matter the complaint or the controversy, Pokemon games never actually seem to have their sales affected by them. Be it Sword and Shield Dexit not allowing you to transfer all previous Pokemon, Scarlet and Violet being a glitchy mess in so many ways visually and gameplay wise, or Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl having a less than stellar art style for a remake, as well as a lot of other things. All these things made huge waves on Twitter or on YouTube with their Nintendo drama channels, but if you're looking at sales, well, Generation 8 is the second best selling Pokemon generation of all time with 26 million units sold, and Generation 9 is close behind with 25 million units sold. And the Generation 4 remakes, well,
I am so glad they're making a new Arceus game. I'm not joking when I say I prayed for them to make a new Arceus game.
they sold 2 million more than the magnum opus that is Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It's kind of wild. And yeah, the Switch is one of the best-selling video game consoles of all time, so it does kind of make sense. But still, you would expect these very vocalized issues to cause some damage, but it seems like in reality, they don't really. It's obvious that many of you aren't quitting Pokemon because, well, the games are still selling so well. It's obvious that many of you aren't quitting Pokemon because...
Look at that aesthetic. That's what I mean when I say just feel like you in lo-fi, man. Look at that background. It's so beautiful.
Well, the games are still selling so well. And let's all be honest with ourselves, if you clicked on this video, you're very likely to be just like me where you actually kind of love Pokemon, where you have an insane level of nostalgia for this series, and it's likely to keep you a lifelong fan, at least for the older generations. And as well, that nostalgia is gonna quite likely push you to giving these new games a chance. It's just hard to, you know, completely hate everything that you once loved, be it the card games, the spin-off, the TV show, or the mainline series, whatever it is.
Seeing that, man, just looks so beautiful. Seeing Pokemon on the Game Boy, man, it was a time to be alive. If you weren't alive then, like, I'm so sorry for you. I don't know how to explain it to you in words. I really don't. It was a time. If you know, you know.
There's been so much to connect with over time, and even if you don't grind the games like you used to, it's hard to...
There ain't no way you just opening up a booster pack and getting a holographic Charizard. Get out of here.
Stop yourself from buying a new gen every year or two just to kind of see what's up, then quickly move on to something else. The main thing in my eyes to why you haven't quit this game series yet is that there's been a decline in the quality of important but not crucial elements of Pokemon. The game's controls and glitches are worse than ever, as well as a lot of visuals and animations, but the key concepts, the secret sauce of Pokemon, it's all still there. And the games, well, they're just still quite fun to play. Starting with the battle system, it has taken very, very few risks. So it honestly still feels quite fun all these years later because it was just a good system in the first place, even if it can feel quite a bit samey. That sameness, though, also comes with a benefit that is coziness. You're never going to jump in a new generation of Pokemon and go, dang, you know, I don't really know what's going on. I'm overwhelmed. I quit. Like, that's not going to happen because it works the same way that it's kind of...
Have y'all played Poke MMO? If so, let me know.
always worked. Except for that, maybe you just have to deal with like one new mechanic per generation that honestly is usually introduced in the second half of the game, and that's kind of it. So it's really easy to keep playing these games and to keep going on because basically every new game you play is just a continuation from the old one in 99% of the gameplay. Pokemon designs are also still quite unique and let you connect to them in a way that I don't think a lot of other games quite do. Now, maybe that's not every Pokemon, and maybe even these new generations don't do it quite as well as they did in the past. It's really up to interpretation. But I think there are enough Pokemon that people like in every generation where it's still working out, such as, Snom, who is in Generation 8, and I love that Pokemon. And I actually got a plushie of it on my trip to Japan. I think it's super cute and super fun. And I think a lot of people just like playing these games to see cute or cool or awesome or whatever new designs, and Pokemon have consistently created them and allow you to as well, which not many other games.
Man, first and second gen got the best looking Pokemon. I'm sorry. Call me a boomer. You feel me? I'm not hating on the new Pokemon. I do think that there are some good looking Pokemon in newer generations, but look at Clefairy. Like, that's just a good design. Am I tripping?
Games franchises have done that well, allowed you to purchase them in a myriad of ways, which, not all games do too well, but like the Pokemon plushies, the Pokemon merch, which
is that Pikachu made out of rice?
Not all games do too well, but like
that is Pikachu made out of rice.
The Pokemon plushies, the Pokemon merch, all of that, they really do allow you to attach to certain designs in every gen. They've definitely kept the soul and the goal of Pokemon to go out there into an adventure in an isekai world, essentially, to capture a lot of monsters, to build a team that feels like it's made just for you, to make them more and more powerful as you conquer more challenges, and finally to become the best that no one ever was, to become a champion as you capture Pokemon along the way. The structure of Pokemon hasn't really changed, even if they play around with stuff like gyms or trials or stadiums or whatever. In the end, the purpose of why you're there is the same. And I think it's really easy to get invested into these worlds, into these journeys.
If you're watching this, do me a favor and go ahead and hit like, man, so that YouTube will push it so more people can check it out,
as well as taking those little friends with you. While sometimes the gameplay and definitely the visuals of these games are just kind of broken, to be honest, on the Switch generation.
Oh my gosh, it looked like a ghost.
How the ideas are generally quite good. Generation 8 had a lot of areas that were kind of boring to play, basically just going down a hallway. But when you looked at them, they were awesome in concept. And Generation 9, that middle zone, like, it just had the vibe. It was so cool. It was so unique, even though it could have maybe looked a little bit better in execution. I think they just keep building these worlds that are awesome to explore and that we want to explore, even if the worlds aren't quite as good or quite as interesting as they used to be. I think for most, it's still good enough.
No, it's not. It's really not.
That I think is also just that little extra bit of spice that makes these worlds inhabitable, and something that I want to go back to time and time again, is that the music is still fire. And while this doesn't matter to everyone, some people even play these games muted, I think it is so good in some of these generations, especially Generation 8.
Yo, I can't play no game muted. Like, music is like one of the best parts of games. Who plays games muted? Well, maybe in some circumstances, but for the most part.
That cooked. That made me so excited to play any battle, to beat the gyms, to go all the way to the end, even though sometimes the gameplay or the map or whatever wasn't quite as good as I was used to. As I've explained, the important ingredients are still well prepared in Pokemon, and they keep the Pokemon machine rolling, even if the end product is not quite as good as it could be, and even if they could definitely use more time for a lot of these games. I think it's good enough for what most people want in ways that their wallet proves that they actually care about. Like, of course, Pokemon could include custom animations for every single Pokemon. They could do that for a lot of moves, for their death, for their animation, for everything like Coliseum or Stadium, but like, they don't need to. And while I would love if they did, that isn't the main focus of the games compared to these full battle simulators like Battle Revolution. What they're doing is definitely just making the minimum viable product that's...
If they included animations for every Pokemon and stuff, that would take a long time. That's not my biggest gripe. My biggest gripe with Pokemon games is that they do not have voiceovers. They have so much dialogue and do not have voiceovers. And this is coming from the biggest franchise of all time. bigger than Star Wars. And the fact that they literally have an anime just takes some of the actors and actresses from the anime and put them on the game. Have them do voiceovers. Is that so hard? Is that such a hard concept? I don't get it. That's my biggest gripe with Pokemon. And my second biggest gripe is if you've played, have an option in the beginning of the game to say, I already know all of this stuff. I don't need to learn how to throw a Pokeball, how to do all this. I already know. Stop explaining. Let me skip this part.
Still works, that still appeals to fans, and with a player base as big as a Switch, yeah, it makes sense why that would still sell like hotcakes, even if it could be so much more. All the reasons I've mentioned so far, I think, are great reasons to why we still buy these games. You know, they still provide enough value within the game themselves, but why do we still want to play these games? Well, I'm going to mention a few reasons here, and the first one is that each new Pokemon generation is honestly not that huge of a time investment, and I think that does matter quite a bit. Like, sure, you can put thousands of hours into each game competitively, or you can grind shinies for hundreds of hours, or maybe even get addicted to watching Wolfie videos, but you don't have to. You could just play 30 hours, have fun, complete the generation, and then move on and wait 2 years until the next one and really give yourself time to not get overkill with Pokemon. These games let you play in the way that you want to, be that more or less, and they really have you covered. Another reason why I've been playing them recently,
I love Pokemon so much. Like, I love it so much. Like, I legit in real life started getting sad that I did not own a real life Pokemon. This is in my adult life. This is like last year. I was like, man, I wish Pokemon were real. And I realized it's because I didn't have a pet in real life. And so now I got 2 cats, Pepper and Jalapeno. And I just imagine that they're Pokemon in my mind. and they sit on my shoulder sometimes like Pokemon. So
at least in Generation 9, is that they added multiplayer, and that is a very important thing to me, something that I always wanted in these games. Just being able to walk around with your friends, explore everything with your friends as well. And yeah, I'm just kind of addicted to multiplayer. I won't lie, and I'm sure a good amount of you guys as well. It's just fun to play with other people.
You can do that on Poke MMO.
It's a great time to grind every once in a while with my wife, and then, find a Pokemon I love, eventually buy a plushie. It's just good vibes to play with other people, and these new generations are kind of the only place you can do it. Another boon that Pokemon has, both
No. You can do it on Poke MMO.
competitively and casually, is that I don't think the balance of Pokemon actually matters that much. Now, while it's awesome to have an extremely balanced game, in Pokemon, the way that the stats work and the way that just the gameplay system works, I think it's hard to completely break this game. And casually, I think they've actually done quite a great job, where the old Pokemon have been buffed to a decent standard so that you can basically pull out any new Pokemon, even if it's been power creeped a little bit and is a little bit stronger, but it doesn't matter that much, or you can play your old favorites and they still work. You can still play through the game and still win the game, at least if you get a little bit over leveled. And with competitive Pokemon, while there have been some pretty bonkers metas, such as with Olras, Primal, Kyogre, and Groudon, I think when a lot of new generations come out, their early VGCs are actually quite fun. So I think while, a loud minority will complain about the balance, I don't think in Pokemon it matters nearly as much as a ranked first mentality type game like, Dota 2 or anything like that. And even if there is power creep making the new Pokemon a bit better than the old ones, again, it doesn't matter that much since anyone can use any Pokemon that they really want to. So I think in the end, it's pretty alright. Those are all reasons why people keep playing the new games, or people keep buying the new games, and why you probably won't quit those. But maybe you have quit those. And I think to you, the old games are also just as amazing as I remembered. I see myself going back and playing them probably until I die, to be honest.
I try to play like Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue, and like I am slowly playing through Red. I grew up on Blue. I'm slowly playing through Red, but it's not as fun. Like I try, the nostalgia is what does it for me, but just life improvements on the new games.
Honest. And I play probably one Pokemon game, one of the old games, one of the nostalgic games.
When I say the old games, I'm talking about on the Game Boy. I'm not talking about like Game Boy Advance.
At least once per year. Be it trying different teams, playing monotypes, trying to speedrun those games, going for a Nuzlocke and just trying my very best, or maybe even just playing the game really casually and just trying to experience it as I did as a kid. I think all of that is just still enjoyable, and those games, they did age super well. They just have such a nice feeling to them, and maybe it's just the nostalgia talking, but
it's the nostalgia talking. Don't get me wrong, they're good games though.
I love going back to those, and I think no matter what, I'm probably never going to quit those. I can definitely see why people may get bored of certain games for a while, why they may need a break for a year or two, or even just skip a generation. But the call to replay your favorite games, that's always gonna come. Booting up Leaf Green or booting up Platinum just to play that game one more time to become.
See, he's talking about, Game Boy Advance games.
The best that no one ever was. That part of my childhood I truly miss, and Pokemon rekindles that joy that I once had, on the back of my family's minivan on those card trips, playing Pokemon with
It is Game Boy Advance, right? Am I tripping?
my brother. Yeah, it's still there. Overall, I love Pokemon, and while it may not reach that potential that I can imagine for it, that I wish that it could hit, it's still a game series that I love, and it's still a game series that I'm sure a lot of you guys love. A game series that has given me so much enjoyment, so much time with other people, so much to talk about, and I'm sure it's going to continue to do that for years to come. And when you put all those things together, I think that's why you're probably never going to fully quit Pokemon. Maybe you'll stop buying the new games, maybe you're going to only play the new games and not play the old ones, but I think there is just a little bit of something for everyone, at least for me and my friends. And if you want to talk about another game that a large proportion of the population is never going to quit, well, I have a video right here talking about League of Legends, a game.
All right. So I love Pokemon, as many of you probably do. I think the best Pokemon game to get into is Poke MMO. If you have not played that, it is amazing. It is super dope. Well, all right, y'all. I appreciate you tuning in, and salutations to the nations.
Angel Knot.